we're not doing this project alone. We're doing this with 8 partners from across Europe, including the National Archives of Hungary, Microculture in Belgium, the Center for Research and Dissemination of the Image in Girona, Spain, Cluj County Library in Romania, the National Library of Scotland, EPIC in Ireland, Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision, and of course, Europeana. So this project started late 2020, so we're in full swing at the moment, working our way up to producing lots of things for the summer of sports, and it will end early 2022. So as you may have seen already on Europeana, lots of beautiful material have been featured on Europeana collections, and we're also trying to engage the audience by organizing online activities involving EU citizens, cultural heritage institutions, educators, and actively ask everybody to take part in this season. Alongside that, we're exploring the impact of sport and sporting heritage, and the communities and the society of the people of Europe, because sports is us. We all have a relationship to sport. So we're very excited to bring this to a wider audience and use our collections for that. So why are we doing this? We want to highlight the diversity of sporting heritage. Building on top of a great collection that was already in Europeana, we're going to bring more than 25,000 new objects into Europeana, which is great, and will really add to fantastic access points to sporting culture on Europeana. And of course, it's to raise awareness about the fact that sport and sporting heritage can tell us stories. It has had an impact on our lives. And of course, we want to engage everyone to really take part. And also, I want to say to you, if you feel inspired by what we're sharing with you today, reach out to us. We're there. We can help you, and we look forward to involving you in any shape or form, whether that is bringing more material into Europeana, to being involved in perhaps a collection day, to sharing a personal story. So it can go as broad as that. And of course, and you may have seen this already, and looking at Adrian also, lots of editorial together with the partners from the project and with the help of Europeana have been published on Europeana already. You can explore beautiful blogs and galleries, and we're producing many more showcasing cultural heritage. And also, maybe you've seen that on the new Europeana, renewed Europeana website. There's really cool ways of how you can now browse the content and through different lenses. So biographies of sports people, or sports played at local or national level. So this is really also for you to browse, and for the users and for Europe citizens to browse across Europe. Europeana and explore all these collections from all these heritage institutions, not exclusive to the partners of this project, but also beyond that. So we really hope that everybody enjoys that a lot and values the work for us that we bring together. So it's almost enough for me now. I'm not seeing our dear colleague Graham online yet, but before I close off and give the floor to Adrian to tell a little bit more about the work that also Graham and his team are working on for the sports project, I want to say that this is very interesting time to be working on this sport project, because the world is upside down with Corona times, and are sporting events going ahead? What is the societal impact of sporting events, different countries? So with the summer of sports coming up, the Tour de France, the European Football Championships, and the Olympics in Tokyo, we're definitely not short of inspiration and ideas, and we're currently exploring also developing a pop-up exhibition around the theme of 125 years Olympics, which is actually this year. So with the Tokyo Olympics coming up, very timely topic to feature, and we're doing this in close collaboration with the Europeana XX, also another generic service project. And we're dreaming big, and we may even hope that, should measures allow us to do so, organize an online collection day where people can bring in their sporting memorabilia and their stories into the Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam. So that would be a fantastic thing to do. But of course, everything in this year is a little bit upside down. So we think creatively, we go with the flow, and we bring sporting culture to the people. On that note, I will like to hand over to Adrian, unless Tamara or tell me that Graham has arrived. I would like to give the floor to you, Adrian, to tell a little bit more about about the collection and the digitization that is happening as part of the project.
Thanks, Nienke. I don't see Graham in the participant list, so I'll take control of the screen from you. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about collections and digitization. My name is Adrian Murphy. I'm a collections manager here at Europeana Foundation, and I'm the project lead for the Europeana Sport project in Europeana. So for the first few slides, they were more about Graham and the National Library of Scotland's involvement in the project. So I'll skip over those and not put sort of Graham's words in my mouth. So the idea of the project there are sort of three prongs to the Europeana Sport project, and one of those is to bring new collections into Europeana, which are on a sport theme. As Nienke mentioned, a sport collection on Europeana has already been created, bringing together the collections from all across Europe that currently exist on Europeana under the umbrella of sports. That's at sport.europeana.eu. Within that, there's a huge variety of objects. I think last time I checked, it was about 180,000 different cultural heritage objects with huge geographic and cultural diversity from all across Europe. So from many different countries, different types of museums, galleries, libraries, archives. And it also includes many high quality, openly licensed data, whether those are images, documents, videos, or audio, or even a few 3D models as well. The images here give you a sense of the kind of collections that these are. They could be kind of documentary photographs of sport being played and of sporting venues, for example. They could also be memorabilia like medals and fan kind of merchandise and so on. So a huge variety of different types of collections. So while we bring in new collections into Europeana, we're hoping to bring in, as Nienke said, 25,000 different new records for Europeana. And in the plan for that, there are many different types of collections and types of sports represented. So there are at least 122,000 different types of sport. You may not have thought that there were that many different types of sport in the world, but these collections represent that, whether football, golf, athletics, and cricket, which are the most popular, but also minority sports, including archery, bowls, chess, climbing, figure skating, korfball, which is a Dutch sport, and underwater fishing, which is an interesting thing to find out about. Hopefully, as the project goes on, we will also showcase some of these sports and tell the stories of them, particularly the ones that are kind of more regional and minority sports, bringing their kind of stories to a wider audience. So these are some examples of the kind of material that our project partners will be bringing into Europeana. So there are examples like records, photography and documents relating to the past of national and international sports life in Hungary, Italian periodical newspapers and magazines which relate to sport, Dutch newsreel collections, videos ranging from sports such as football and horse racing to Olympics and other championships, photographs documenting sporting activities in the Girona region. And actually today, a first example, we published a blog about Salvador Dali supporting rugby. You may have thought you might have known everything about Salvador Dali, but maybe we didn't know he was a rugby fan. There are also documents and photographs of leading Romanian athletes and sport in the communist era of Romania, as well as text photographs and moving images ranging from key histories of sports in Scotland and objects relating to the Irish diaspora sporting heritage. I think this was the last slide for here, but I see now that Graham has joined us, so maybe I will go backwards and allow Graham to present his slides, which I will maybe control because it's the easiest way to do that. So I'll just go back for your slides, Graham. If that's
I'm so sorry. I thought I was 45 minutes early because I had put I'd used the wrong time zone. I'm gutted.
No problem. Well, we are back to the start point where you're going to talk about sport and collections, Dream Team. And when you want me to move forward, just let me know.
Okay, I'm so sorry if you've heard this already, but yes, very quickly to get you back into the sport groove. When this came up, it was so useful because we've previously done things at the National Library of Scotland around sport. And the reason that we liked the subject of sport was because sport breaks down into all of its various disciplines like track and field and athletics and 400 meters and then 400 meters relay. So you've got this real atomization of all of the different sports, just like the library collections atomize and break down, like the Dewey Decimal System breaks down into its sub-disciplines. And so the world of sport and the world of library collections feels very closely aligned. And the other thing that breaks down like that is society itself. So you have all sorts of different countercultures and communities, and they break down into communities. So the world of sport maps very closely to what the library is trying to do with its new strategy, which is called Reaching People. And another thing that sport's done very well is it's used the coming together on the playing field to break down all sorts of barriers between nations and people of different abilities, and races and creeds and colours. So it's one of those topics which literally, I think the Olympics enshrines that whole ideal, and the 5 rings of the Olympic flag. So it was something that we wanted to really fully take part in. And the other thing to remember about sport is it's fun. So there's no shortage of images of people looking like they're having a good time, doing things actively. And of course, well-being as well is something that's another aspect to this, which we can work very well with. So I think that's why we were drawn to this and delighted that Europeana was doing a sport focus. So the thing then that we were faced with was the problem of copyright, because when we were looking at the choices we were making, to be very sure that you're not straying into rights protected images, we're usually looking actually at least pre-1950, in actual fact more like 1920s. And the issue there is that the images that you would be therefore generating would bear no resemblance to the kind of images that modern sport presents. So although sport and many things were once the preserve of only a few people, now this is not the case. And there are so many ways for people to participate in sport. So how do you make sure that what you're putting into Europeana looks like the world we live in? Because it should do. Well, one of the things we're doing is we've got a post in the library to clear some rights. We won't be able to clear as many rights as we'd like, but we certainly need to show that we're working as hard as we can to move the copyright threshold nearer to the world we live in today. And of course, the other thing that we can do is use partnerships and user-generated content, where the user can give us permission. And there we're always expecting the content to be very much more topical and up to date. And so what we're doing at the library is we're going to have a rights clearance post who's going to be working, like I say, to clear rights in moving image and publications that we're digitizing. But the other thing is to target our efforts with organizations who go to the extremes to actually deliver exactly this kind of inclusive partnership. So I just heard this morning from a third body, LEAP. So we now have 3 partners: Street Soccer Scotland, who work with the homeless and people recovering from addiction. We're working with Scottish Disability Sport, who are the umbrella organisation across all of the para sports and disability sports in Scotland, and Leap Sports, who are an agency who try and extend sport to LGBT participation. So working with those partners and a sports journalist, we're going to be eliciting those stories. And beyond the stories, then we're going to be doing events with them in the in the autumn, where we're giving their work a platform. So this whole Europeana Sport thing has provided for us an opportunity to get to know these three organisations and do a variety of other things, not just during this Europeana Sport project, but onwards.
I think I have covered these slides before you arrived, Graham. So I think we are ready to go, other than maybe this last slide to say if any organization or a person listening has a digitized collection that relates to sports and they'd like to share that with a wider audience, then get in contact with any one of us who is speaking today, and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks, Adrian. Sorry, I was just taking control of the slides there, and thanks, Graham, as well. I'm just going to talk to you for a couple of moments around participation and communication within the Europeana Sport project and how you might potentially be able to get involved as well. Here we go. So just to take a look at participation. So the project is taking place all across Europe. And of course, we invite a wide variety of different people to come and take part, whether they be sports stars themselves, athletes, fans, members of community clubs, people with family stories, anyone really that has an interesting tale to tell. How are we going to do this? So we're going to use a few different methods to try and get people to participate in the project. So we hope to grow our collections and to use participatory events to grow our audiences. At the moment, there will be at least 10 participatory events held across Europe. So those are a combination of online and offline or physical collection day events, one of which has already taken place in Romania in the last couple of weeks. And we're also going to be inviting members of the public to share their stories about their own sporting heritage with us. So outside of these participatory events, there is a way to directly submit stories, though of course we hope people will come and take part in the events themselves so that we can get the most out of the material they're going to share with us. Yeah, so just to take a quick look at on-site participation. So obviously COVID is the elephant in the room for everybody, hoping to hold events all across the continent over the next couple of months, but with restrictions lightening in some places, we are confident some will take place. And the one I mentioned in Romania was a physical event, so there is hope there. We've just had to put a couple of different precautions in place to make sure they can run smoothly. In order to maximize participation, generally we found it's very helpful to organize them to coincide with key sporting events or with exhibitions, or with prominent events taking place in your museum or cultural heritage institution as well. We found that arranging a set number of interviews in advance rather than just putting out an open call is very helpful. So working with and developing relationships with sporting clubs, with organizations, with other bodies that hold large collections in this area really does make the chances of a very successful collection day much more likely. So kind of pre-arranging those interviews in advance, particularly with something like COVID kind of looming over us all, is very important. Obviously, appropriate PPE gear should be worn at all these events. But we found that using a booking system is also very helpful because it just means you can stagger people across the day, minimize risk, and yet also guarantee participation. So even if it is an open call, using something like Eventbrite or a similar booking system to schedule people and give them an allocated amount of time really does help these events run very smoothly. Now, however, where those aren't possible and we can't hold physical events, or perhaps you prefer to hold them in tandem with physical events, we are exploring the idea of doing online participatory story collection days. These needn't be a full formal story collection day. They can just be a series of pre-arranged interviews that can take place staggered across a number of days or a number of weeks, depending on the capacity of each of the institutions. And it is something that prior to the arrival of COVID wasn't necessarily embraced as fully as it could have been, but I know, like us all here today, we've learned very rapidly how to use it to best effect. Some of the other areas that this does allow options as well that aren't open on physical events. So interviews can be recorded, which can have the benefit of aiding in transcription post-event once consent has been given. We can pre-arrange and send material to participants in advance so that they're more familiar with what will take place on the day and how they'll be involved and how that material will be used. Guidance on how to take photographs or scan objects that are related to the stories that they might share, which will help improve the quality of the material that's submitted to Europeana afterwards as well. And then communication. So really this kind of falls into two parts. So we consider it kind of pre-collecting and post-collecting communications. So obviously we're trying to reach a really wide variety of people across the continent. So we developed a few different tools to help our other partners to do this to best effect. So there's a project communication promotion plan and brand assets to help really cement the idea of the project in people's minds, to give guidance on how to post about it on social media, how to develop print materials, how to develop posters, how to get people to engage. But the other key thing is as well is even after the collection day events, which have their own dedicated event plan, have taken place, is how to use all this wonderful new material that's made its way to the Europeana collections, and how to get people to engage with it. So the other areas that we're looking at are how to get cultural heritage institutions, educators, researchers, and the general public as well to engage with the collections post collecting days, and how to make sure that the new and improved Europeana Sports collections really do reach the audiences, become assets for everybody else post collection. So that is where potentially you come in. We obviously welcome new partners to the project. We'd like to engage with as many different institutions as possible across the continent, get you to take part, hold collection days yourself. Perhaps you have a collection you'd like to add. Perhaps you just want to share your own story, which is very welcome as well. Or, you know, a sports club that has a wonderful set of material that they'd like to share with us. The more the merrier. You're very welcome. And I think with that, then I will hand back to Nienke.
Thanks so much, Nathan. And thank you, Graham. You made it. I'm super happy that you had the chance to share. No, really, it was perfect. Adrian had just presented all the data and the collections, and what inspires me most is how involvement of National Library of Scotland in a project like this, how that also changed the works within your organization. So I think that's nice for other institute that might be with us here today to see, okay, involvement in such a project is not a one-off thing. It's something that can possibly change things also beyond the duration of the project. So I'm very happy that you could share that with us also today, and that you're here. So I'm very grateful for that. On that note, people, if you have any questions for us, please let us know, speak up. If there are no specific questions, I might have some questions for Adrian, Nathan, and Graham myself. So this is a Europeana sport project. It's a project that runs for a little bit over a year. However, and with a focus on sport in the past and in the present. Editorial things and participatory activities are happening throughout this season, this year actually. But it doesn't stop there. So Europeana is bringing this all together, and it's there to stay. So also beyond January 2022, you can still bring your sporting collections into Europeana. You can still bring in personal stories. You can bring in your digitized collection. So it's an investment well worthwhile to make, and it will not be over at the end of this year. So that's maybe an important thing also to note. You're quite shy, I must say, but I have a question maybe in general for Adrian with regards to the development. As I was just mentioning, it's great that all this material can be brought together in Europeana and it's there to stay. And I really love how Europeana has now also made these browse entry points. Is that something that you see that also the users are very responding positively toward, or the galleries or the blogs? Is there something where we say, dear heritage institutions, please continue to put in efforts there?
Yeah, absolutely. We can see that when material is featured in our editorial, it obviously stands out a little bit from the crowd than in the 58 million records that are on Europeana. Of course, that pushes things forward, and when we share those on our social media, which we do for every new editorial, there's a newly created social media campaign and advertising campaign for each one, so that it reaches the audience that it can reach. And we can see there that there's a lot of positive reactions to that. And from now on, over the last few months, we've now brought in the ability for users on Europeana to be able to curate their own galleries. And we're interested to see if over the summer there'll be some that will relate to sport. And without spoiling it too much, there might be something we'll be doing about that as well, but working out the finer details on that right.
But that's a fantastic feature for people to know and about, and maybe also for heritage institutions who have sporting material in Europeana to think, hey, maybe I want to use that opportunity to curate a gallery myself. And I'm sure that Adrian and Ott are more than welcome to hear your ideas around that thing, and also you can curate them yourself. So that's a really nice opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone within the next 5 minutes can go to Europeana, create a new account, make a gallery, and you can set that gallery to be either public or private. Of course, if it's public, then people can see it. If it's private, only you, the user, can see that. So yeah, absolutely, anyone can go ahead and do that.
And Graham, I was just saying how much I like to hear when heritage institutions are saying, and the same goes for Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision, that involvement is not only the involvement as part of the project, but it's also beyond that. So how do you see the involvement of the National Library of Scotland in this project, but also in other previous projects that I know that the National Library is involved in, has an effect on how you work within your organization? So how do these European projects contribute to the strategy internally at the National Library?
We were involved in the Rise of Literacy work. So I think in terms of making sure that our digitized content it goes beyond our walls, and when you place it on your own website, it's important and it's useful, but actually making sure it's on other platforms as well, where people see it in a wider context, it seems to be very important. And Jill Hamilton's been on the board of Europeana, and she's very committed to the goals whereby you're trying to move your digital content outside of your own walls. Yeah. Even when you've digitized things and they're available remotely, it's still very difficult for people to actually know that they exist, because it's such a diverse market field of digital resources. So putting them on the Europeana platform with all of that extra context and packaging and partnering seems to be it aligns very well with the objectives we're trying to do. You want people to know about your stuff, and you want to know about other people's stuff as well. So I do like how the sport is just already, it's massive already because of the work that Adrian's doing to bring in all of the sport content that was already there, as well as add the new stuff. It's just a very enjoyable playground to be amongst.
Thanks so much. And Nathan, I know that EPIC reopened its doors. The Irish Immigration Museum opened its doors today actually. So the physical is of course important for a museum, but the digital for you as an organization also being involved in have been involved in previous Europeana projects. How actually similar questions. So how is that of importance and of to your organization?
Thanks, Nienke. Yeah, no, we found our partnership with Europeana to be enormously beneficial for ourselves. I mean, yes, we reopened yesterday after being closed for more than 4.5 months, and it was also the 5th anniversary of the original opening of the museum. So we're not quite the National Library of Scotland, but we're doing what we can. And we found that working with Europeana has been fantastic because, one, it gives us access to expertise that we don't necessarily have in-house. Two, it's a platform for engaging with stories from all across Europe, and as a museum focused on migration, that's really important for us. It's also meant that partnerships we've developed as part of different projects. So we've been involved in the migration campaign, the Europe at Work campaign, now the sports campaign. Those partnerships kind of are legacies of those previous projects as well. We had a pilot project here in Ireland as well ahead of Europeana Sport this year, and the network that was built up as part of that has been really important for us too. And it's just something that we find the stories get greater engagement as well when they're online, and we can align a lot of our digital collecting policies around work with Europeana because it just gives us so much more reach than we would if we were to try to do it unilaterally or even with a smaller group of local partners. So we're very happy to be involved. We're going to keep working together into the future as well, and I think our partnership's only going to grow from strength to strength.
Thanks so much. Yeah, the same goes also for Netherlands Institute of Sound and Vision. You bring your collections further, the collaborations on the pan-European level, the ability to tell stories based not only on your own collection, but also using the collections of other heritage institutions, extremely valuable and also inspiring to learn from how we do things. And we all have our different expertise, and we bring that and we want to share that. So also what we take away from this project will also become publicly available throughout these projects. So with the partners, with the coordinator, our friends at ICU who are coordinating this project, I think it's important to really share with you that how we and what we do in this project will also be brought to you either through blog posts on the Europeana Pro, so also the network can learn and benefit like we are doing that at the moment. So, but we also hope that you will have the same opportunity in the next projects to come. So on that note, I'm looking at the time. I think unless there are any other pressing questions from our audience, I think I would like to thank you all for, thank you to my co-presenters for all your insights and sharing that with the public, and thank Gina and Tamara for organizing this lovely afternoon.